Today, after months of dodging and trying to get out of it, former Attorney General Pam Bondi testified behind closed doors about the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein investigation. And according to Democrats who were in the room, there was one consistent theme in her testimony.
She said, and I quote, "Acting AG Blanche was managing the entire investigation," end quote. All of the mistakes that we saw, the redactions, not protecting survivors, she continues to push that back onto the acting AG, Todd Blanche. We asked questions about Ghislaine Maxwell and the transfer. And again, she referred those questions to Todd Blanche in the Bureau of Prisons. So let's be clear. We have many questions for Mr. Blanche.
It was all Todd Blanche's fault, apparently. Blame him. Now, maybe Pam Bondi was just trying to pass the buck, clearly, deflect some blame. But given that Todd Blanche is the guy who is now in charge of the entire Justice Department, Trump probably wasn't thrilled with that answer, which may be why Pam Bondi came out of that hearing trying to deny she ever said it. Because this afternoon, the former Attorney General made time to play keyboard warrior, posting on X, quote, "Not true," in all caps, literally responding to people's posts. But a leaked copy of her opening statement obtained by Emmis now reads, quote, "I delegated oversight of this process to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche." So it seems like Bondi definitely had a lot to say about Todd Blanche's involvement in this whole fiasco. But when it came to her boss, Donald Trump, she apparently had a lot less to say.
I also personally asked the former AG 5 times and 5 different questions about her conversations with President Trump, whether he directed her at any given time on the Epstein files, what he knew, what he asked her to redact or not, and she refused to answer any questions about President Trump.
She was asked specifically about Donald Trump, President Trump's awareness of Epstein's crimes before they became public knowledge. She had the opportunity to say Donald Trump certainly wasn't aware of those crimes. She had the opportunity to say, I know Donald Trump, and if he was aware of those crimes, he would have done something. Instead, she said, I don't know.
Joining me now is one of the Democratic members who was in the room with Pam Bondi today, Virginia Congressman Suhas Subramaniam. Okay, so as I just tried to lay out there, former Attorney General Pam Bondi, I mean, she basically threw Blanche under the bus, then she denied she did that. You were there, did she?
She was the whole time she was spending just talking about how this was Todd Blanche's thing. Todd Blanche was in charge. Ask Todd Blanche. Ask Todd, ask Todd, ask Todd. Kash Patel is the other one, too. She kept referring to the two of them. But, you know, clearly she delegated this thing, and Todd Blanche was in charge of a lot, and she took very little responsibility for her action in this. If you look at it, all the bad stuff that's happened in the Epstein saga, Todd Blanche has been the center of it, right? You talk about moving Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security prison. You talk about the not release of 2.5 million files. Todd Blanche is in the center of all of this. So it makes sense that she referred to Todd Blanche so much.
Yeah, I mean, the buck ultimately stops with the person running the department. But, I mean, to your point, Todd Blanche was involved in all of these major things. It sounds like your sense is, but you tell me, that, yes, she was trying to pass the buck, but there may have been some truth to it there in terms of who was responsible for what and overseeing what.
Yeah, well, of course, President Trump wants his former personal attorney in charge of the Epstein saga because the president is in the files, right? And so that's why he was so intimately involved. And apparently, he was involved personally in some of the redaction process. That's something we learned. And even people in his office were involved in that process. And so I asked her the simple question, was at any point the department looking for Donald Trump's name before releasing files to see if he was in them? And she said she didn't recall. And all of a sudden, she had memory fog, right?
Well, I mean, the thing about that, and we noted that today as well, is that because she said, as you said, she couldn't recall talking to him about his name being in the files. But reporting in the Wall Street Journal from last year says she explicitly told him his name appeared multiple times in the files and that her deputy, otherwise known as Todd Blanche, who we've been talking about, was with her when it happened. What do you, I mean, yeah, so there you go. I mean, the reporting's out there. What do you make of how she handled the questions about the president?
I mean, Harmeet Dillon, the assistant AG, was there to just dive across the table to stop us from asking those questions. I mean, the DOJ was very present in that room. It was pretty amazing because we weren't sure if they were acting as their personal attorney or acting in their official capacities or both. I think it was maybe both. And they kept telling her, assert your privilege or this is privilege. And then she would say, well, okay, but I also can refuse to answer the question because this is all me coming in voluntarily, even though she's under subpoena. So the whole thing was just a charade. And again, this is all about protecting the president and his own interests.
You mentioned earlier that she also passes the buck to Kash Patel, of course. What questions would you like him to answer for?
Oh, well, you know, she was saying over and over again that he would not release files to the DOJ.
Yeah.
So the DOJ didn't have files to release because Kash Patel was sitting on them the whole time. So I'd want to know what Kash Patel was doing this whole time. He was on his podcast the last couple of years talking about the Epstein files over and over again and how this is deep state conspiracy to not release them. He had the files himself and wasn't releasing them. So what's the deal, man? What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. There's lots of questions we have for him about all sorts of things, including his bourbon. That too.
That too.
Where does the investigation go from here? What's next?
I want to hear from Todd Blanche. I want to hear from Kash Patel. The former AG herself said we need to talk to them. I also hear from the head of the Bureau of Prisons. She said that that's who was in charge of moving Ghislaine Maxwell to a lesser security prison, which should never have happened. And I want to make sure that all of three of them come and testify under oath on video because the Republicans are still trying to cover up for this, and oversight Republicans are afraid of the president, and so they're trying to get these voluntary interviews in place to protect them from the American people.